The laughter had started before Elena even reached the table. She stood behind the restaurant counter, holding a tray of champagne glasses, while three wealthy women whispered loudly enough for everyone to hear. One of them smirked and said that a woman with Elena's curves should never wear a fitted uniform. Another laughed and called her the restaurant's biggest embarrassment. Elena lowered her eyes, pretending not to hear. She had learned long ago that people could be cruel when they thought money made them important. She needed the job, so she swallowed every insult and kept serving. But that evening, something changed. The restaurant suddenly became silent when Viktor Romano walked through the doors. Everyone knew him. The mysterious businessman rumored to control half the city's underground empire. Men twice his size moved aside when he entered. He wore a black suit, his expression cold and unreadable, and two bodyguards followed several steps behind. Viktor had visited the restaurant many times, but he had never looked at anyone the way he looked at Elena. She was carrying a tray when their eyes met. For a second, neither moved. Then Viktor walked directly toward her. The customers began whispering. "Why is he going over there? She probably made some mistake. He wouldn't be interested in someone like her." Elena's hands trembled. "Mr. Romano," she said softly. Viktor stopped in front of her. "Are you all right?" She forced a smile. Of course. His eyes moved toward the people who had mocked her. "I heard them." Elena's face turned pale. "Please, don't make trouble." Viktor leaned closer. "Why are you protecting people who enjoy hurting you?" She had no answer. For years, Elena had convinced herself that staying quiet was strength. But standing there beneath Viktor's gaze, she suddenly realized how exhausted she was from pretending insults didn't hurt. "I'm just doing my job," she whispered. Viktor reached for her hand. The entire restaurant watched. Then, without warning, he pulled her gently toward him and kissed her. The room exploded into shocked silence. Elena froze. When Viktor finally stepped back, her eyes were wide with disbelief. "You kissed me," she whispered. "I did. In front of everyone?" That was the point. The woman who had mocked Elena earlier stood up angrily. "You can't seriously expect us to believe she's your girlfriend." Viktor turned toward her. "I don't expect you to believe anything." He placed an arm around Elena's waist. "I expect you to understand that from this moment forward, you will treat her with respect." The woman went silent. Then Viktor looked at Elena. "She isn't my girlfriend," he said. Elena's heart sank for half a second. Then he continued. "Not yet." A nervous laugh escaped someone nearby. Elena couldn't stop herself from smiling. Viktor looked at her and whispered, "Unless you want to be." She stared at him. "Why me?" His expression softened. "Because you're the only person in this building who never looked at me with fear or greed." Elena remembered all the nights she had served him without asking questions, quietly placing his coffee on the table and wishing him a good evening. "I thought you didn't even notice me," she admitted. "I noticed you the first night." Her eyes filled with tears. "But everyone says I'm not beautiful." Viktor gently lifted her chin. "Beauty isn't decided by people who have forgotten how to see." The restaurant remained silent. Viktor turned to the manager. "Elena is no longer a waitress." The manager blinked. "What?" "I'm offering her a position managing one of my new restaurants." Elena shook her head. "I can't accept charity." "This isn't charity," Viktor replied. "You've earned it." Weeks passed. Elena accepted the position, but she also made Viktor promise something. "If we're going to be together," she told him, "you can't solve every problem with money or fear." He smiled. "Then teach me." And she did. For the first time in his life, Viktor discovered that power meant little compared with trust. Months later, they returned to the same restaurant. Elena walked inside wearing an elegant dress, confident and smiling. The same women who had once laughed at her were sitting nearby. One of them approached. "I owe you an apology." Elena smiled politely. "You do?" The woman looked embarrassed. "I was cruel because I was insecure." Elena nodded. "I'm glad you understand." Across the room, Viktor watched proudly. When Elena reached him, he held out his hand. She took it. "You still like embarrassing me in public?" she teased. Viktor smiled. "Only when you forget how extraordinary you are." Then he kissed her forehead. This time, Elena didn't feel ashamed. She felt proud. Because the woman everyone had once mocked had finally stopped asking the world for permission to love herself. And the man feared by everyone in the city had discovered the one person powerful enough to change his heart.